Alright guys, I'm gonna tell you all a story that happened about 2 years ago. Since I'm stupid and I don't know how to green text, and I'm on mobile, it will take a little while to upload it all. This happened at my grandma's house, in a small mountain town in New Mexico. It's so high up in the mountains, you can stand in the clouds. Anyway, we were up there for my grandma's funeral because our aunt got the house and we got the money. I was outside on the back porch, which was huge because we were on the side of a mountain. It went all around the whole house except for one side. There had always been this house/barn thing at the bottom of the hill. It had a huge gas canister, and when you walked past it, it would smell bad. It constantly had flies, raccoons, even squirrels and bears, and etc. Also, there were pine trees fucking everywhere. Anyways, we had a .22 and we were just standing on the porch taking pot shots at anything that moved. We also had a trailer that sat there for as long as I could remember, right off the back porch. It had been abandoned, although my brothers and cousins told me that they used to stay in it. But I was 16 at the time, and it remained abandoned to me. My cousin dared me to shoot it, and since I don't back down from a dare, I shot at one of the wheels, and it fucking exploded. The whole thing tipped and rolled down the hill at that barn thing. Next thing you know, all we heard was a loud-ass crash as it hit it and the gas canister. The next thing I see will probably stay in my mind forever. 3 butt-ass naked men run out. I mean, these 3 naked-ass guys just bowled out. One of them was so fat and fucking hairy, I mean, he could pass as a gay Bigfoot. And they run towards the house, and they go under the porch. Our parents run out and are all freaking out and shit. And since part of my family is major redneck, as you could tell, they have rifles and shotguns and etc. Anyways, they all decide to just start shooting these weird fuckers. 2 of my cousins go on one side, one of my brothers stays on the porch with our uncle's handgun, and me and my brother are on the other side of the house. They're armed with their hunting rifles while my bro has a hunting shotgun, and I am armed with my grandma's old-ass double-barrel shotgun. Have I ever mentioned I have never shot a shotgun before? So I'm leading in front of my brother, despite him being 21 and me being 16. We all go around at the same time, trying not to shoot each other. I come around first, and the skinniest fucker runs at me with a knife. I didn't know what I was doing, so I squeezed both triggers at once. It blew my ass to the ground and ripped the gun out of my front arm, and I'm barely holding it, with my hand on the trigger. You want to know what else got blown? A fucking huge hole inside of the guy's chest. He flies back and rolls down the hill a bit, and he stops. In the meanwhile, I'm fumbling about, trying to reload, because another one of the fuckers is running at me. Since I'm on the ground, he grabs a nail board from under the porch and swings it at me. I pull up my arm just in time, and it fucking sticks into my arm, and he tries to book it past me. He swung it like a golf club. It's fucking deep in my arm. I try to pull it out, and it's the most excruciating pain I've ever felt. Even worse than the time I broke both growth plates in my knees in high school football. I finally managed to get it out, and in the meanwhile, my cousins rush over. My brother turns and fires a buckshot into the guy's legs. He drops and tries to start crawling away. I manage to get up with help. With the help of my older cousins, I get up. We're looking over the guy that my brother shot, and he's still alive and has this look of pure terror on his face. He's saying some bullshit along the lines of, "Please don't go down there, please, please, please." And he wouldn't shut the fuck up. And then, we hear yelling. It was the fat guy from earlier. He lowered his shoulder and he plows through all of us. I can take a hit, but this guy was fucking strong. I'm on the ground and I look up and he's just yelling and running straight back into the woods. I hear an ear-deafening shot, and my cousin shot him in the back with a .308 round from his hunting rifle. He drops and is wiggling around on the ground. By this time, everyone is outside while this shit's happening, which included the kids under the age of 10. My bro runs down with his handgun. He's a personal trainer, so he's pretty big. He runs over and he has the big guy on gunpoint, while one of the cousins runs over to help him. I get up and dust myself off while I'm still bleeding. I just kinda hold the wound and walk up to the guy I shot. It will never leave my mind. I mean, his chest literally was exploded. I call one of my cousins over, I load up my shotgun, and I walk back down to the barn. He tries to stop me and I just tell him to follow. We walk down together while my aunt calls the ranger, or sheriff or whatever he was. It was a mountain town. We walk up to this barn and Inside is the most foul-smelling, reeking mounds of something that we've ever seen. You thought the guy I shot was bad? How about 9 dead bodies? 4 of them were skeletons, 3 were rotting and half-eaten, and 2 were recent kills. And I puked. One of them was a kid younger than me. He had gone missing a few weeks before we got there. I remember because my aunt was telling my younger cousins not to run off because the kid probably got eaten by a mountain lion. My cousin just turned away with an angry look, and he was fucking pissed. He had kids, and they were younger, and so he walks back up to the mountain to the 2 guys. They had managed to drag the fat guy back to his skinny friend, and my cousin just walks up, points his gun at the skinny one's face, and we had to fucking hold him back. I mean, he had kids, we all understood, but Jesus Christ. They were going to cannibalize that kid back there. I started feeling like shit, so I just walked up to the porch, holding my arm, and I kinda just sat down. The ambulance can't get up the rocky-ass road up to the house, so my uncle drove me down to the hospital. The whole time I just stayed silent. He would ask questions, and I would just sit there and stay quiet. I couldn't get the image of the bodies out of my mind. We got to the hospital and they treated the wound. I had to get a tetanus shot, and the cop was lazy as fuck and just waited for me to come back, so he took the guys to his squad car and called in the forensic guys or whatever to get the bodies. The ones in the barn and the guy I shot. I got back around 2 hours later and I just kinda walked in, and I was like the elephant in the room. Everyone stared at me. I usually walk around with a dead expression on my face, and it makes people uncomfortable, but this time it was legit. My mom told me the cop was on the back porch, so I walked out and we did the whole "what happened, what did you see, what did you do" type of bullshit. I told him everything that happened, even with my brothers and cousins there. I just kinda sat there for a while and just stared as the guys took the bodies away. Later, the cop took me to the side of the house where nobody could hear us, and he told me something along the lines of, "Those guys you found, they were literally insane. I mean, they were eating those people. They were cannibals. You did the right thing, kid." And he just kinda walked off, and the cops and shit fucked off. When we walked back inside, I just kinda sat there looking at my feet. My uncle balls up and asks me, "Well, what did the cop ask and say?" I told him the stuff, and the people's faces in the room were mixes of disgust and depression. I just kind of started crying. I wasn't wailing or shit, it was just tears. I just stared at the ground and sat there while other people watched. I kinda wiped my face and looked up and just stared out the window, and the words just came out of my mouth, and I said, "If you have any questions, just ask me. It'll be easier to put them out now so you don't have to ask later." I only got a few questions like, "What happened? Are you alright? Are you okay?" But the one that fucked me up the most was my small cousin, Dylan. He was only 8, and he was asking what was in the barn. It just kind of fucked me up a little. I turned to my older cousin who went down there with me and gave him the look of, should I tell him? My cousin just said, "Fuck it." So I turned back and I said, "I saw 9 dead bodies." And then I told them the shit about some of them being half-eaten and some were skeletons. And then I said, the one that fucked me up the most was the kid that got abducted a few weeks ago. It was him. He was in there. Everyone just stared at me. The next day, more cops showed up, and I walked down with them to the barn, and we walked into the basement. They restored power for a short amount of time, so a single light bulb lit up the room, and there was writing everywhere. Every single inch was covered in random words and I guess some Latin bullshit. We walked back out, and I felt as if I had a heavy weight lifted off my shoulders. Why? I gave closure to all the families whose family members had gone missing. They might not want to hear that they got eaten, or were going to be eaten, but I took what the cops said to heart. For the next few days, the cops would come every now and then to check up. I stayed for questions for the next few weeks, and eventually took a plane back. But in those few weeks, me and my cousin covered the barn from basement to attic in gasoline, and we burned it down. Over the days, everyone got used to what used to be a cute boy with a baby face is now a killer with a baby face. Like, seriously, it takes me months to grow inch-long hairs on my face. Anyway, this wasn't released in the news because it would fuck up the town's reputation, or something like that. A few months after I left the cop that I talked to, his partner got shot and killed by some crazy guy, literally at the house at the entrance to go to the house on the hill. Sometimes I break down, and I cry when I remember. The one thing that messes me up the most is I have sleep paralysis, meaning I wake up and I can't move. I have to listen to things for me to not have it, like music and live streams, but I was in the paralysis, and I was just sitting there, and I saw the kid. He was sitting on the end of my bed, and he turns to me, and I swear to God, he just said, "Thanks," and he was gone. I woke up just sitting there. I didn't know what to do. I used to go to a psychiatrist, and I told him about all of this, and he told me that spirits can contact through sleep. If it's true, it's good that he did. I guess I did right that day, and now people will be happy that I did do good. Other families and even mine. Despite it all, I'm happier now. In the late summer, early fall of 2022, my partner and I went on a bike trip. Bicycles, not motorcycles, we're not that cool. And we went through the Olympic Peninsula in the Pacific Northwest. We're from Canada and had never been there before, so we had no expectations in terms of the remoteness of our destinations. We planned 2 nights in the Elwha Forest at the Olympic Hot Springs. Due to a recent washout of the road, which leads to these hot springs, the area seemed to be mostly used for hikers and occasional cyclists. Although I will say it was not exactly easy to bike to, with a lot of hike-a-bike on single-track loose rock trail, which, when your bikes are weighed with 50 pounds of camping gear, isn't that easy. Anyway, once you traverse the washout road area to get back on a main road, up to the hot springs, it's about a 20-kilometer trip up a little mountain, then some more technical hike-a-bike over a washed-out bridge, then your destination, a backcountry campsite. From the start of the park, it was about a 4-hour, 20-kilometer trip uphill by bike. The campsite had a pit toilet, no running water, since there was a river nearby, and some convenient bear stashes to string your food up away from wildlife. The first night we were there, a few hikers came in and out of the campground, but by the second day we were completely alone. It was extremely beautiful at the hot springs, but the eeriness of isolation was definitely hitting us the second night, as we were completely by ourselves. Especially since we had to walk about 1 kilometer up and down some switchbacks to gather 1 to 2 liters of water to boil at a time on a camp stove. It's not so fun in the dusk. I didn't attempt in the actual dark, cause yeah, I'm a wuss. We wanted to stay longer, but didn't have enough food or fuel to boil water or make camping work. There was a fire ban in place. That second night, a minimalist hiker came through and sat down with us around our camp stove. He just cooked a meal as he passed by. He was friendly, but a little odd, and I couldn't decide if it was more or less terrifying to know some random person was comfortable enough to just come up to us late at night. Anyway, that's the gist and setting before I now describe the actual unnerving part the next morning, implying you guys didn't already fucking click off because that took forever to get through. I didn't sleep well, and I woke up early, like 5 a.m. just before the sunrise. It was the morning that we were supposed to leave, and in the tent, I kept thinking I could hear animals, but not well enough to define what kind of animals. Just random background noises. I don't know, it's the woods. We had a long bike ride ahead of us that day, so we began packing up camp before the sun came up. Being afraid of the dark and a big baby, instead of making the slightly longer walk to the pit toilet, I walked out about 10 feet from camp into a bush to pee. At the time, I started hearing what I thought were the murmurs of people camping, voices that I couldn't hear or decipher very well. Looking through the trees, it looked like there was the reflection of a shiny sleeping bag material about 40 feet from where we were. I just thought, that's a weird place to camp without a tent, but this explained the murmuring voices, so I carried on packing with dawn just barely breaking. While we were packing, some cracking branches and general rustling noises started in the large tree right next to where we were. By next to, I mean no more than 5 to 10 feet away from us. This was a designated backcountry campground, so while we were surrounded by trees, it wasn't thick forest in the area. There were spaced out trees with brush under them, and you could see them well enough, and there was enough of a clearing to visualize other parts of the campground. And you could see the entirety of the trees well enough that you would assume it would be obvious if anything bigger than a few squirrels or birds were rustling in them. Anyway, the noises in the tree got progressively louder, and yet the tree was completely still. It was a sound of large branches cracking and the sound of heavy things falling. To be honest, it sounded like rocks were being thrown and branches tossed on the ground. But there were never any actual rocks or branches thrown at us, or anywhere. No movement. If you could imagine the sound of a large animal rustling around right next to you in a tree, that would be my best description, but visually, nothing was happening. By this point, the sun was mostly up and it was darker in the forest, but there was enough light to no longer use a flashlight. My partner and I made a mention of it to each other, kind of like, is there a giant bird in there? A bear? I don't see any animal, and etc. As we continued packing, I had my knife in my pocket, as if I would stab a bear or a cougar, sure. And he had the bear spray by his side. We started moving faster with the mutual understanding of like, what the fuck is happening? And as I mentioned, I am a wuss, so I felt somewhat internally panicked, but I was trying my best to not project it. We had resorted to intermittently clapping our hands and hollering in case there was some kind of magical wild animal in the brush that I just couldn't see. Finally packed, we moved our loaded bikes to sort of the main trail area of the campground, a little bit further away from the loud tree, but still within 20 to 25 feet. This is where the outhouses were. It was at this point I realized that what I earlier thought in the darkish/dawn were people sleeping with reflective sleeping bags in the open was actually the reflective aluminum of some water drains sort of in a ravine area by the main trailhead. There were no other people, and we were still completely alone. I had no idea what those voices from earlier were. My partner went to use the outhouse right in front of us off the trail so we could get the hell out of there. We fastened our final items to our bikes, and at this point the commotion of the tree was getting increasingly louder. And while it probably doesn't sound scary, it was quite scary while I was standing there alone. I could see the tree from a different vantage point now, and there was still nothing there. No movement in the tree, just loud branches cracking right in front of me. No wind, just the sound of a tree being thrashed by something large. And yet, unmoving. I felt crazy. I started wondering if I was going to be attacked when he was in the outhouse. So I just continued clapping and making loud noises to make my presence known. Finally, my partner walks out of the outhouse, and all of the noise stops. I mean, like, completely stops. It's dead quiet. We put our bear spray away and we get the hell out of there. Ultimately, my feeling on this is that something wanted us to leave. I know this story reads as pretty stupid, and again, nothing ultimately occurred other than noises. Evidently, Sasquatch was on my mind after this happened. We tried to learn a little more history on the hot springs. We discovered a small book on its commercial history, and I did Google other Sasquatch-like encounters in the area. However, I'm not left with much interpretation of this event, other than feeling like the Alwa Forest and the Olympic Peninsula is definitely special, and it changed my perception of the woods and its possible inhabitants. I've read that these hot springs are sacred to the tribes, but as a white settler, I can't speak much on that, or what that means for this story. Had I been alone, I probably would have questioned if I was having auditory hallucinations. When I tell people this story, they're usually like, so what, you heard some noises in a tree, but it's hard to convey how loud and violent the tree sounded, given that it also looked totally normal. Maybe you would feel the same way. I did find some weird missing 411 cases in the greater area of the Olympic Peninsula, but I don't put much into the similarity of those. I've never been back, but I would like to return one day with more people, and camp stove fuel, as it otherwise felt like a stunning paradise in the woods before the tree event. Anyways, that's it. Hope you find it to be interesting, if nothing else.